Another important announcement from your favorite fake AI lady. Hello and welcome to the Bob and Kel CleverCast. Today's episode is a little different from what we usually do. Remember 2006? I sure don't. But today we are going to play an episode from March 9, 2006, from the Lost Archive of Bob and Kel podcasts. I'm sure you will enjoy this trip down memory lane. The reason for this is that Kel is currently on a secret government mission to the Caribbean. Unfortunately, due to the sensitive nature of the mission, we can't give you any details about it. We apologize for any inconvenience this may cause, and we promise to bring you fresh content as soon as possible. In the meantime, we hope you'll enjoy this nibble of nostalgia. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back soon with more episodes.
I'm looking for a fake sponsor, pardon me.
Sometimes it takes a while. Let's go ahead.
It's the drug that Barry Bonds has taken. The steroid.
Creatine?
Is that what it's called?
No, that's what Mark McGuire took.
I thought that was Andro.
I'm getting confused.
Winstrol.
Winstrol.
This morning's Thursday, March, is it the 9th?
Yeah.
Why do I have the 6th on my watch?
Sounds about right.
2006 edition of the Bob in the Morning, or whenever you're listening to it, podcast, webcast, Bobcast, audio blog, daily internet, current events, comedy club, brought to you by Winstrol. Winstrol tastes good like a steroid should. Barry Bonds says it's delish. And by Nalmefene. Oh, for a hit of Nalmefene before going with the Hall and giving the points last night at Madison Square Garden.
How'd you do?
Not well. When I lose a game, I don't mess around. Well, those Rutgers Scarlet Knights look like world beaters. And by Webleg Software, web with two B's, webleg.net on the web, 651-762-3700, 762-3700, a 651 call for all your software and internet needs, spearheading this podcast effort. Throw them your business, the occasional thank you. They're here for tech help, whatever you need, and thank you for subscribing and renewing at BobYatesShow.com with two consecutive S's, and by,
sound like John
I
Gordon.
love doing that, and by, hey, we're not that far from the snapper mow 'em down innings, are we?
And we aren't. Pitchers and catchers.
Once we get past all these pesky tributes, the way we deify celebrities. Mm-hmm. There's a guy on the front page of one of the local newspapers today who has gone to pieces.
I know. It's sad.
Oh, my God. I haven't seen expressions like that since JFK was shot. Outside Parkland Hospital in Dallas, you'd find less anguished expressions. November 22nd, 1963. The way we deify our celebrities. Sports figures division is truly sickening. And by Poolside of Little Canada. From here, you're halfway there. Did you see the sign at the curb? You know, Poolside, the little pool and spa materials place.
Oh, yeah.
Used to be my pool's guy.
Right here on the corner there, yeah.
Yeah, it's over that way.
Yeah,
you're pointing toward 36. Should be pointing toward Little Canada Road.
I get mixed up in here. Like those people who drive in and back out and drive back out.
Did you see the sign?
I've seen the sign, yes.
Did you see what the sign said?
No, I didn't.
It said, "We will miss you, Butch."
But
Now, unless another twin has fallen, Butch Weiniger.
no.
Did the puck go by Butch at one point in his life? Did I miss something?
I'm pretty sure he didn't. So.
Poolside will miss Butch.
It's too bad. I miss Butch, too.
I didn't even know Butch was sick. Barry Bonds began using Winstrol, which tastes good like a... You're too young to remember Winston cigarette commercials.
No, I've heard a few.
Winston tastes good like a cigarette should. And I got to believe Winstrol tastes pretty darn spicy as well. I have jalapeno brats in my freezer now. I stopped during the power walk. Flicker Meats.
Did they take your advice?
I didn't offer it. I was just so excited to see they were only $4.69 a pound. I've never had a jalapeno brat before. Jalapeno brat actually sounds a little like maybe a Latin counterpart in the adult film world, a Benjamin brat in the late 1970s. But these should taste good like a omelet should in or near some sort of egg dish this coming weekend. Jalapeno brats, there are 4 of them in my freezer. Barry Bonds, on the other hand, began using Winstrol after the 1998 season. According to the book Game of Shadows, which was the authors of which were interviewed last night on The Big Show with Donnie Deutsch. You become a big shot advertising exec, you can get your own MSNBC show also. Jose Canseco was also interviewed, and a lady writer there inside the Bay Area, and I want to see and hear from the former girlfriend, who is
not your former
apparently
girlfriend.
One of the no, there are too many of those to seek out, but this one has the dirt on Barry Bonds, which reminds me, I have absolutely no dirt on Dana Reeve. For those of you who think that we've been approaching the fatal bucket stroke a little irreverently, I have no dirt on Dana Reeve.
Now,
she was an angel sent here on Earth, and let's face it, deserved a better fate. But then again, the old adage that God loves them best who he takes first, or something to that effect, may be true.
She had lung cancer, right?
That's correct.
Smoking like a chimney?
No, never smoked a cigarette in her life.
Well, that's sad.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you continue to live.
That's correct, and so does Sid Hartman. Hitler was a vegetarian. And what's your point?
Sure.
Bonds began using Barry Bonds, a non-smoker, began using Winstrol after the 1998 season, with this buddy of his supplying the steroids and syringes, and usually injecting Bonds in the buttocks.
Yeah.
In a family newspaper, the word buttocks. Eventually, Bonds learned to inject himself. That had to be one of those privately embarrassing moments, something you wouldn't want anybody to see. How in the world? I guess if you're flexible and if you have,
all men,
if you're an athlete, I guess you'd have to do a few limbering up exercises so that you could turn at the waist and look down at your butt, and you would know where to hit yourself with the needle. I hate needles.
All men want to try it themselves at some point.
Winstrol eliminated the pain and fatigue of training. This sounds like a slogan for a commercial. Eliminate the pain and fatigue of training with Winstrol. This allowed Bonds to lift weights with a fanatical dedication before the 1999 season, and that, of course, is because he was allegedly envious, obsessively jealous of Mark McGwire's achievements, and felt there was a double standard. Mark McGwire, wouldn't be held up to the same standard because he was a quote-unquote white boy. Unquote.
Well, he accomplished his goal. He overtook McGwire, and now he's in the same boat as
now
McGwire.
He's on his way to a Hall of Shame.
Mm-hmm.
Bonds was 34, well on his way to establishing Hall of Fame credentials. It's true, even as a skinny guy without steroids, he was a good ball player.
He was very good.
3-time MVP, 8-time All-Star, winner of 8 Golden Gloves.
It's in his blood, though. His daddy was a ball player.
That's true, too. 411 home runs, 290 career average. But in the years of his alleged steroid use, at an age when many careers are winding down, those of you familiar with the twilight years of just, let's say, locally here, Harmon Killebrew, you'll know what that looks like. Bonds exploded. He won 4 more MVPs, hit a record 73 home runs in 2001, hit 297 home runs in just 2,519 at-bats.
Not to mention the seats.
That's a home run in more than every 10 at-bats.
Not to mention the seats he filled at Old Candlestick.
He averaged 1 home run every 8.48 at-bats in that span, almost twice as frequently as he had to that point in his career, and no one batted an eye, pun intended. His most recent proclamation that he never used steroids, even though you can see with photography of this man, the time-lapse photography, how he has become this incredible Hulk. I'm clean, he said. I've always been clean, but it never ends. I'm clean. I've always been clean. But I'm telling you, this Sicilian thing, it's got to end. Grabs a hold of us. Wrong time, wrong place, and we're dead.
You want to inject me a little bit there, Jack?
My Ennis Del Mar. By the way, I saw the second half of Jarhead and still recommend it.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
The critics said that, kind of, what's the point? We only got, look at these people's lives there and here. The thing they lived in fear of most, it seems, was that their wives and girlfriends back home were being unfaithful. Never got to shoot anybody. Never had any real role in the war. went through their own kinds of hell anyway. It wasn't explained why the Peter Sarsgaard character died at the end. The only way in which the Jake Gyllenhaal character changes by the end is the haircut. And I guess in this day and time in Hollywood, as I'm reminded of by phone roughly every day of my life from Los Angeles, there has to be this arc, what's called an arc. Your hero or heroine has to be changed in some way. And we're also left in the lurch as to whether or not Jake Gyllenhaal got back with his girlfriend. There was a lot of stuff left up in the air, but I still enjoyed the movie. I thought it was hellacious filmmaking. Sam Mendes directed, and Jamie Foxx was good. I enjoyed it, so I'm going to recommend Jarhead.
And for your taste, there were enough women involved.
There were a few fleeting scenes of raucous sexual activity.
And the pause button worked?
Which is enough. This excerpt from the book Game of Shadows also describes in great detail Bonds' great detail. I like that when it comes to a relationship with anyone named Kimberly Bell, a graphic artist whom he dated for 9 years, and at one point even while he was married. In addition to telling the grand jury that Bonds confessed to her in 2000 about his steroid use, she described the numerous changes in his physical appearance and behavior. I don't know where I heard it or read it, but, these weightlifter guys, professional weightlifters, bodybuilders and whatnot, that steroids, start your heart beating like a hummingbee and your genitals begin to retract. I mean, you begin to get the tiny genital thing going. I don't know how that could be in any way, entertaining. So we'll read the book and see whether or not I'll go back to the index, look under G for genitals, and see if there's any mention of various goodies. The numerous changes in his physical appearance and behavior. Those changes consistent with steroid use included acne, hair falling out, and, I love this, his head appearing to grow larger.
He did have a big head.
Well, he had a big head anyway, but as to whether the little head became littler, we'll just have to investigate the book and see. In other sports news, the late Kirby Puckett, according to yesterday's Pioneer Press, ranks as the number 107 greatest player of all time, without steroids, mainly carbohydrates, and the occasional twin sisters in the projects, among his vices. Despite that, 107 of all time, according to statistical research by a fellow named Justin Ahern. Babe Ruth, number 1. Rod Carew, number 50 of all time. Harmon Killebrew, number 63. Paul Molitor, the number 75 baseball player of all time.
Good ball player.
Dave Winfield, number 92. 92. Tony Oliva, number 174.
And still not in the Hall.
No, and I don't think he's going to get there either.
But you're 174 out of how many players? You're the 174th
I know, I agree.
best out
Well,
of
according to
millions
this guy's
of players.
stats, and we don't know what he based those stats on.
I guess
one of the guys on Pardon this interruption, whatever it was yesterday on ESPN, said that based on Barry Bonds' pre-steroid numbers, he would still vote for him for Hall of Fame, just as he would vote for Pete Rose to this day for a Hall of Fame, but there would be an asterisk, at least one, because of the ugly stuff.
I wonder if he would vote for McGuire, I think he's up for it this year.
That'll be very
interesting.
Very interesting. Thank you, Artie Shaw. Artie Johnson, whatever your name was. Laugh in. In other sports news, her name is Christy Yamaoka. This is the Southern Illinois cheerleader, Southern Illinois University Saluki cheerleader that perhaps you saw footage of. Landed on her head after being mishandled there on the basketball court, cheerleading squad, and was carted off in traction. And while she was in traction, she was still doing the cheers. Mm-hmm. I understand she's still doing the cheers. They can't stop her. She's like the ever-ready bunny. They're hoping that her battery will run down.
Perky girls.
So now the Missouri Valley Conference is overreaching by barring some cheerleading stunts during this week's women's basketball tournament. A precaution taken after Christy Yamaoka of SIU fell 15 feet, landed on her head, suffered a concussion, cracked neck vertebra, and still persisted with the arm motions of the cheers while being wheeled away.
That had to kill her lawsuit. If they see that and they have tape of it, I mean, you could move just fine, Christy. You don't need any money.
There's no...
so stupid.
Well, I don't think there's going to be any litigation, is there? How could there be?
I don't know. Isn't somebody? I mean, look at the Timberwolves when Garnett threw the ball in the stands. They put the guy in a wheelchair and wheeled him up. I mean,
I hadn't even thought of litigation in this instance until right now.
Oh, really?
I don't know. She's the one who consented to be thrown up in the air. Yeah. If she's going to sue anybody, she should sue the other cheerleader for not catching her. There are pitchers and catchers in baseball, in the homosexual world, and in the realm of cheerleading as well. Cheerleaders may not be launched or tossed. Failure to launch. Stop. And may not.
Gene Shalit says it's a breezy, fun comedy.
Oh, Gene. Is he still alive?
I guess.
Dana Reeve is dead, and Gene Shalit is still alive.
Has his whole mop of curly black hair gone gray yet? Or does he color?
I don't watch the Today Show anymore. Is he still on the Today Show?
With Jane Pauley and Brian Gumbel?
You actually memorized that blurb. A breezy comedy that blah, blah, blah.
It came up. It was a commercial last night on TV, and I just said, well, this is the movie that Bob says is god-awful. Let's just see how... And so I was watching it intensely.
It's a god-awful title, that's all I know. And I also know that those two people aren't stretching in these roles. Chris Hewitt, who, by the way, is no Gene Shalit, of course, but he said that what she's doing, what Sarah Jessica Parker is doing, is not that far from Carrie Bradshaw. This was money, money, money. In these people's worlds, movies are made to make money, not to make any kind of imprint on the culture.
It doesn't make sense to me. She plays a girl who's trying so hard to get this guy who's a loser, and then he's playing a loser. It doesn't make sense to me.
Cheerleaders may not be launched or tossed and may not take part in formations higher than 2 levels during the tournament. Christy Yamaoka drew national attention as she was wheeled off the court. She gave a 2-handed thumbs up while strapped to a gurney, then made cheerleading moves with her arms in time to the band's playing of the school fight song.
While in a neck brace.
It's unclear when she'll be released. A full recovery is expected. And this is the quote of MVC Commissioner Doug Elgin. I think the entire country was holding its collective breath when she got hurt.
When originally they thought it was Christy Yamaguchi.
And then, of course, we exhaled nationally in a weeping kind of way when we heard the news about Kirby Puckett.
That's right.
And then we inhaled when we heard about the death of Gordon Parks. And then we exhaled when we heard this morning that Ann Richards has esophageal cancer.
What, a waiting to exhale joke?
Oh, I didn't even think of that until right now. I like that you're thinking of stuff that I'm not.
Oh,
it's kind of
the yin to your yang.
Kind of a meshing, kind of a
complementary,
colluding kind of thing. Yeah, exactly.
You know who's going to be the MC for the Kirby Memorial on
Ryan Seacrest.
Seacrest out? No, not Seacrest.
Hold on. Herb Carneal.
Nope. Dan? No, I'm just kidding. No, the guy who named his son Kirby.
Bob Costas. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know.
You can't respond to that.
Tell you, fortunately, I mean, it's on a non-custody weekend. I suppose I could go, but and for those of you who missed, let's say the blubbering in '68 over Martin Luther King, Robert Kennedy, or maybe 1980, John Lennon. Blubber away.
Is there going to be open weeping there? I mean, it's going to be just. Going to be a sight. I think I might want to see it just for the comedy.
Well, there'll be a saturation coverage. I mean, the last name Puckett was on virtually every page in some context on every page of both sports sections yesterday. But we digress.
Are you and I the only ones who think this is all very kind of silly? I mean,
that could be, and that could also be one of the reasons why we're restricted to podcasting as opposed to having legitimate jobs with radio stations. I doubt very seriously if anyone, no matter how cynical or negative, parentheses Tom Bernard, they're probably on the bandwagon. And I'm about to get to a quote, if I ever finish this damn item about the cheerleader, that apparently Puckett's girlfriend, never mind the demographic disparity and the cosmetic mismatch, is apparently a medical doctor on a par with Bill Frist, being able to diagnose Terry Schiavo from a photograph or some videotape. She said that her boyfriend's weight had nothing to do with what he suffered.
Wow.
I think the entire country was holding its collective breath when she got hurt, said Doug Elgin, among the 14,000 onlookers at the Savas Center. I've never experienced that type of total silence out there. It scared the daylights out of all of us. I wonder what sound that made. Human head and followed by the body hitting the floor from 15 feet out. That had to be pretty...
like a bowling ball being dropped down the alley?
That's a very good analogy.
Well, again, with the...
You were just on your game today.
Give me a chance. I'll screw it up.
Give Kel a chance. Let us hear ya. All we are saying. Dr. Jody Olson said Puckett had been working out with a personal trainer.
Now we're back to that story again?
No, now we're finally here. Had been working out with a personal trainer at their house to prepare for the wedding.
Huh? Squeeze into that tux. He probably wanted to wear the tux when he married Tanya.
Getting in shape for a wedding? This is like Groomzilla's. This is like the show Bridezilla's except for grooms. Trying to fit into that wedding dress. I think he was trying to maybe lose weight in order to fit inside the church door. That maybe the church had only a single door as opposed to those opening double doors. Or perhaps to be able to get down the aisle with her or his groomsmen or what have you. And the whole personal trainer thing, that shows you right there that if you can't do it on your own, I mean, my God. Once again, vegetables, exercise. I weighed, and I felt a little silly doing it too, yesterday, standing buck naked on a scale at the YMCA.
Oh. With all the others watching?
While naked men wandered about. And I'm wanting to hold something in front of my genitals, like a towel, but I knew that, that would add to the weight reflected on the scale. So vanity, thy name is bisexual. I dropped the towel and stood there buck naked. And all Kirby Puckett had to do was, actually I'll add a third word to this, vegetables, exercise, and hobbies.
Well, he had a hobby. It was...
What was it? Model
airplanes?
airplanes?
Wasn't he into the sex thing, sex addiction?
Oh, no, but I mean hobbies, platonic hobbies.
Oh, bad hobby.
Museum going.
What are your hobbies?
Needlepoint. These are the words of Dr. Jody Olson. I know a lot of articles have come out questioning whether his weight was the reason for this. And his weight had absolutely nothing to do with this. So you're telling me that if he was back to being 5'8" and 210 instead of 5'7" and 410, that this would have happened anyway? Dr. Olson, I beg to disagree. There were no signs whatsoever that this could happen, she said. He told me he loved me as soon as he woke up in the morning, and it all happened in a split second. Well, that's how these things happen, hon.
So he had a trainer and a doctor around him almost 24 hours, I'm guessing, and still in the worst condition of his life.
Olson said she called 911 and rode in the ambulance with him. She's probably pretty surprised, even in retrospect now, a few days out from this tragedy, at being able to fit into the ambulance with him.
Always a fat joke.
But was not able to communicate with him and that he never regained consciousness.
She didn't even get to say, I love you.
Dr. Olson, I'd hang out that shingle.
I think the main thing here is, well, who is, marrying who for money? I mean, do you think he still had a lot of money left, or do you think it was her with her medical degree, and probably because doctors make a lot of money, too? It wasn't love.
I think what you're trying to do is to make me nostalgic for when you and I were on the radio and you'd be flipping through Entertainment Weekly and you wouldn't be paying attention. Jody Olson does not have a medical degree of any kind.
Oh.
What I'm saying is that for her to make this determination, I'm going to go ahead and confer physical, physician status on her.
Oh, she's
of course it had something to do with it. It probably had everything to do with it. I don't know where she's getting her information. This man was unhealthy. I mean, he was the obesity equivalent of a 4-pack-a-day smoker for 30 years. She Yeah.
But then my question is relevant then. Does she get anything in this relationship, or is she out cold because they didn't make it to the wedding date? Now she's just the girlfriend?
I don't know what the will attest.
That would be very interesting if you can get your hands on an article about
He was always a very optimistic person, and perhaps he felt he could get by with this. That he could live, the rest of his life at this size. In other sports news, headline, and this is good news for those of us intent on watching the CBS coverage of March Madness. As we established yesterday, never has there been a more wide open basketball tournament, because most of these teams are junk, and I know this because every time I side with one, they lose. Headline, ESPN will not allow Vital to share volume with CBS. In other words, Dick Vital will not, ESPN is not going to allow CBS to borrow Dick Vital just because he is so inextricably associated with bracketology.
How about this for a title? Vital, not vital.
Or Vitalis not needed by Vital. As we know, Dick Vital is hairless.
I know you turn down the volume every time you hear it.
I think the mute button should be called the Vital. That when you push the button that says mute, the word Vital should appear on your screen. And here's his quote. Early in my career, I might have been bothered by this decision, but I'm 66 years old. I act 12, and whatever my bosses want, I'll do it. I'm on so much anyway, on so many shows. I'm on the air more than the guys who do the games. Yes, you are, sir. And that is to our culture's detriment.
He's a regular Regis Philbin.
Vital is deemed indispensable by ESPN.
And yet you sit here with Kel Grad.
And Sid Hartman is still alive.
More clips? More clippings?
In other sports news, as far as tournament action tonight, your conference tournaments are well underway.
Is this weekend the
Pittsburgh
hockey?
was ahead at one point 35-6 over Louisville last night and wound up winning by 5. They were ahead 13-0 to start the game. 35-6 at another point and wound up winning by 5. I'm telling you, you might as well be out at St. Croix Meadows.
Putting on long shots.
That's exactly right.
When did Louisville
join
the Big East?
I think before this season.
Really? That's kind of odd.
I think if Entertainment Weekly had a sports section, you would know these things.
Well,
against my better judgment, I will stay with the Pittsburgh Panthers, who appeared to care at least for a half last night over West Virginia. They are giving 1 point.
This afternoon at 1:30, the Golden Gophers.
I know that. I wish it were tonight because Michigan, I know this is going to make too much sense. If I'm not mistaken, I take it back. Illinois did it also. Illinois beat the Gophers convincingly both here and there, but Michigan did too. Michigan won here by 20 or 25, and they won at Michigan by 20 or 25. And in Indianapolis this afternoon, the Michigan Wolverines only have to win by 4.
Neutral site.
Apparently so. But still, how can that affect anything when at both places, I mean, wouldn't this lead you to believe that these two teams don't match up well, that there's some sort of...
College basketball. It's a pail of confetti, a young person's pail of confetti.
Away from being Globetrotters?
Yeah.
In the ACC first round, Greensboro, North Carolina, Florida State, which almost defeated Duke there and did defeat Duke in Tallahassee, 4.5-point favorite over Wake Forest, one of the worst teams in the ACC. I know this sounds too logical, but I would suggest one go with the Seminoles. George Washington in the quarterfinals of the Atlantic 10 in Cincinnati. I almost said the A10, which reminds me of something else. I guess it's okay now that I heard this morning. Now that Soledad O'Brien is saying it, it's okay to refer to the Anderson Cooper 360 show as, I kid you not, AC 360. That's what she called it. So from now on, that's how we'll refer to it. The Hamsters show is now AC 360. Thank you, Soledad. How'd you like to be named after a prison, for God's sake?
Soledad?
Yeah. Attica Gratke. Yeah, it would not be...
Attica.
Yeah,
Atticus.
Leavenworth Yates. So anyway, Florida State, George Washington giving 3.5 over Temple. Kent State is just crushing people. So I would go with Kent State, give the 6.5 to Buffalo. And in the first round in Dallas, Texas, the Big 12 tournament, Oklahoma State, which has a kind of has a strange kind of new coach theory going. Eddie Sutton has had to go into seclusion and rehab and whatnot. His son is now taking his place. Oklahoma State promptly crushed Texas, and it was almost like slapping somebody awake because Texas hasn't lost since. Oklahoma State only gives 1 to Iowa State. So I like the Oklahoma State Cowboys there.
How is Eddie doing?
No word yet. Ooh. I'll bet he misses the booze. I know I would. And then in Nashville, first round of the SEC, I realized that the game being in Nashville, that I understand why the odds makers are thinking as they're thinking, that the hometown team Vanderbilt should be a prohibitive favorite over Auburn. But in a conference tournament, when teams of Auburn's caliber, and not that they have a caliber, but a good example was last night, Rutgers and Seton Hall, these are the teams that need to achieve if they're going to even make the NIT. So if someone pointed a taser, let's say, not a Glock, but a taser at my head and said, you must take a side here, I would take Auburn and the 9.5 points.
Are any of these just jumping out at you that you'll have to play them
tonight?
They
jumped out at me. A few of these jumped out at me this morning, and I should have grabbed them out of the air and threw them back onto the newspaper. There's a fat lot of good. The ones that jumped out at me yesterday did.
That was going to make your season last night.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you, Billy Bob.
And once again, I realize that the odds makers are kind of giving a Southern Cal home team Pac-10 quarterfinals in L.A. lean to Southern Cal, having them only 4-point underdogs, but I like Cal over Southern Cal tonight, giving the 4. Some of these teams already figure they're in. I think that's why Seton Hall behaved as it did last night. They figured they're quote-unquote in. In other words, they're in the big dance. They had victories over 3 ranked opponents en route to a pretty mediocre season record. So you're not going to get the effort out of teams like that, which makes me concerned about how a team like Washington would perform against a horrible team like Washington State. Right now they're 10-point favorites, so that's something else you have to consider when you decide to do these wacky conference tournaments before the even wackier March Madness ensues. Phoenix hosting San Antonio in the NBA tonight. It is a pick'em.
You didn't mention our Wolves.
In a situation like this, I was getting to that. In a situation like this, I'd go with the home team in a pick'em game. So you say the Wolves lost again?
Yep, 96-93 to
right on the number.
Karolinko.
Right on the number.
It was close right up to the end.
You knew they were going to lose, though, didn't you?
I think so.
Team is not making the playoffs. That's all there is to it.
I just hope they get a good draft pick, but I guess I don't see that happening either.
Who is the draft pick? Who's everybody going? Who's the Lou Alcindor of this generation? Lou Alcindor.
I don't know. I'll have to do some research on that.
Probably some guy with Connecticut.
You think so?
Hell, I don't know. I'm not that.
Every time I
try to stay up on teams and trends, not so much individuals.
Every time I see Utah play, though, I see Boozer, and I think of you. I don't know why that is.
Sounds like a song. Every time I see Utah. I'm wrapping clippings here. Oh, I've got lots of crime news, Kel. You'll be glad to know.
Oh, it's not police blotter time, is it?
Almost.
Almost police blotter time.
Yeah. Doggone it. Hold on.
Those are tiny clippings. Those are like you nod at them with your teeth or something.
Let's see. I'm missing the first half of my cell phone band. Here we go.
All right.
Alexandria, Virginia, after tearfully apologizing to the bank teller she robbed, the young woman dubbed the cell phone bandit. If I could just digress for a moment. On April 10th, Monday night, I will be on stage at the Jungle Theater introducing the actors and director of the staging of last year's IFP North McKnight Foundation Screenwriting Fellowship script, and I'm going to be asking the audience to turn off their cell phones, because if they don't, and if the ringtones are salsa, samba, or rumba, I will dance to them. And I don't think anybody wants to see that. Candace Martinez, 12 years in prison. She's 20 years of age. Gained notoriety when a surveillance camera video showed her calmly chatting on her cell phone while a nervous teller complied with a typed note demanding she turn her cell phone off. No, I was demanding cash. It was the second of 4 such heists in suburban Washington. Netted her about $14,000. In the final robbery, a teller reported that Martinez flashed a gun. That would have been pretty embarrassing, wouldn't it, if she had gotten them confused, these metal objects, and held the gun to her head.
No,
held the gun to her ear.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder why this isn't... I'm not hearing any... Boom! That was neat that we both did that at the same time. The sentence was identical to one handed down a week earlier to her boyfriend, Dave. We'll just call him Dave, age 19, who admitted to being on the other end of the cell phone.
Oh.
Probably saying what? Oh, you say you're robbing a bank, huh? How's it going? They got any money? Okay, when are you going to come home?
Maybe he was the mastermind.
Would you mind stopping and picking up a dozen eggs? As well as driving the getaway car and using his computer to write the note. Probably some sort of ClarisWorks application.
Cell phones have to just be used for good, not for evil.
I couldn't agree more. Yesterday, now you want to talk about a nation holding its collective breath. If I were this nation in the privacy of my basement yesterday, we'd be holding our collective breath over what happened in a courtroom in Florida. This absolute stone-cold fox, fabulous babe who is in her mid-20s appeared in court with her lawyer on the Court Channel yesterday. This was real-life drama. She's the latest outstanding-looking female human being to go on trial for slipping off with a 14-year-old student in her science class. She's a teacher. Back seat while the kid's cousin drove and watched in the rearview mirror and listened. Very No Way Out with Kevin with Kevin Costner and Sean Young.
Isn't that how Letourneau did it too? Though wasn't she in the back seat and with the kid? And
I thought they did the motel thing or something. Oh. Get a room, all of you. But man, I don't know which I'd rather been, the 14-year-old kid on the bottom in the back seat or the driver.
Now,
both sound extremely arousing to me, and I don't want to hear about how he's traumatized, and that part of this attempted plea bargain yesterday was that it would cause him severe psychological damage and a setback and whatnot to have to put him through a trial as a witness. Come on. If he's typical of 14-year-old kids who... two words, so, Alicia Cuthbert.
The question would be, I guess, if she's so into 14-year-olds, is she repulsed by somebody like you, or even for somebody like me, for that matter?
They found her ex-husband, who is an attorney, and I forget, it was either Greta Van Susteren or Rita Cosby. Somebody talked to him last night, and I think that he thinks, although he didn't say so, he said it only in so many words, I think he thinks she has a problem. Because it's we've seen all kinds of variations on cuckolding. Women leaving guys for other women, men leaving women for other guys, and then your more conventional alienation of affections. But when your wife favors a 14-year-old over you,
pretty bad.
And the formal reading of the charges were really spooky. The prosecutor got up and read to the judge what they were intending in the way of a plea deal that had the approval of both sides. Now the judge is going to wait as he heard from a psychiatrist, whatnot. And the formal reading of the charges, it said she stands charged in count 1 of causing the penis of 14-year-old victim number 1, hereafter known as MN or something like this, to be located near or penetrate her vagina in the back seat of an SUV on a certain date. And then count 2 was the same thing, while victim number 2, who we'll call LR or something like this, drove the vehicle. The driver is even being listed as a victim. I should be such a victim.
I should be such a victim.
What kind of world do we live in when 14-year-old science lab students are getting all the action? And I mean, she's hot as a firecracker. We're talking tamale-level hot, 4-alarm hot.
So what's the deal? I mean, really?
The highest level of heated either Sawat D or BW3 hot, an aspiring model. And they also told her in the plea bargain that she cannot sell her story to the tabloids. And I think, I don't know whether this is going to affect her modeling career, any proceeds from that, whether that's going to go for restitution or not. I don't know. But it was quite the case. And she's just, I don't know, did I mention that she's hot?
If she's around horny 14-year-old boys all day, and they're probably, you know how we are when you're 14.
Well, she procured him. I mean,
they're getting braver than they were. When we were 14, we wouldn't think of coming on to our hot high school teachers.
Oh, no. I mean... what would have wound up hot is our fannies from the swatting we would have taken from Leon Hagman, who made Kirby Puckett on the last day of his life look like Hervé Villachet.
But I mean, the whole thing is nowadays kids they say whatever they want to say. They're brazen, and you know, one thing leads to another, and she has to listen to this.
One thing leads to another. Thank you, Fix.
She has to listen to this all the time, and I mean, she probably just got too tired to fight it anymore.
That is an excellent distillation of that case.
I'm trying to rationalize. I mean, you can't. How do you wrap your you can't.
How do I wrap my hands around her? I can think of about 7 ways right now.
But she has nothing to do with you. It's only young.
She looks like she'd even be willing to try something I saw in an adult film the other day, where the woman is. It looks like a weird wrestling hold. But let's see. How does this go? If you were on your back and then let's see, she's on her shoulder. She's basically standing on her head, and then the guy is drilling from above.
A pile driver?
Thank you, Baron von Raschke. Thank you, Crusher Kowalski. I guess we would call it the pile driver. She's hot. With apologies to Humble Pie, this woman is hot and she is nasty. She is hot and nasty.
Why don't these women ever show up at any of your trial locations?
What gets me is this is like the 8th such person in a row to go into courtrooms like this that we see footage or coverage, and they're all knockouts. It's like, and even what's her name, Ashley Banfield. I guess this is the kind of thing that her male co-anchor would not be comfortable saying, might not even think of saying. Maybe she shouldn't have said it. But she goes, and there we see the defendant in the Florida courtroom. And by the way, she is gorgeous. I'm thinking, who are you, Nando? She's fabulous.
I think it's a double threat, though. They're hot, and they're probably not too bright. I'm guessing they're pretty stupid.
She's a science teacher.
I'm sorry. You could nowadays.
I've always envied people with scientific or mathematical knowledge.
High school teachers do not have to know that much.
Now, if she was math,
a professor, maybe
she could have done the math. I'm 25, he's 14. Let me consult my law book. Okay, this is illegal, but no, she's got a thing for kids of this age, and I guess this is some sort of generational jealousy.
So again, if you could go back in time, if you could go back to that era, and
if I could go back in time, that's a song too, isn't it?
Cher song, I think.
If I could turn back time. That's from a Will and Grace episode. I think. I think that was Jack 2000.
Did you see the finale of Project Runway last night?
Was that the finale?
Yep.
Did Chloe win?
Chloe won.
Oh, good. I think Chloe's cute as a button.
Did you see Deborah Messing?
She's cute and hot. And what was Deborah Messing doing there?
She was the celebrity judge. I don't know. She just had such nice things to say about everybody. She wasn't hard-hitting at all like Heidi Klum or any of the other judges.
I hope that if Deborah Messing ever decides to cut those
mess
fabulous auburn tresses, that she will give them to charity or something. It's got to be worth something on eBay.
What would you do? That would go well in your body part collection. Would hair make the body part collection? Well, hair of another kind.
I
decline to answer that question, Your Honor.
Well, I'm reminded a little of Sinatra's personal wig duster.
Oh.
And I would probably keep Deborah Messing's hair in a safe, cool place.
Well, one of those busts, right? On
I guess,
mannequin heads.
Let's cut to the chase. I don't think I'd need a girlfriend for the rest of my life if I just had access to Deborah Messing's hair.
Oh, God.
And what was the last morning of Bob Yates' life like? Well, he rolled over and kissed the hair goodnight and told the hair that he loved it, and then he just passed out.
The last day of your life.
We called 911.
And on Sunday, a tribute at the Metrodome.
A 12-year-old boy who should have been in the back seat in a lip lock with his science teacher, but wasn't. Instead, he was on a school visit to the Detroit Institute of Arts, stuck a piece of chewing gum on an abstract painting by Helen Frankenthaler called The Bay, valued at $1.5 million. It was a landmark in her career, prize of the museum's collection, and now they're going to have to repair it.
Huh.
$1.5 million. I think that's any kind of reflection on either the teacher, the supervisor of the tour group, or the parents, or both. You could just take a piece of chewing gum out of your mouth and stick it. Stick it.
What about the old security guard?
$1.5 million. Well, that's also a reflection on the security guard. I don't think you'd been able to get this
or the
close
velvet ropes.
To, well, now you're getting into the marital aids area, and I wish you'd stop.
Now you're back on her hair again.
This does not, you're exactly right, reflect well on the security staff as well. At the
I'm right
Wiseman
again?
or at the Walker.
I've been right more times today than I have all
Well, it's
year.
just some sort of fluke, some sort of
The winter solstice?
quirk. It's something in the water. You wouldn't be able to get this close to those paintings to be able to stick a piece of gum. They practically stand between you and the work of art.
Oh, I know.
They're very intrusive. Many is the time I have to tell them to butt out. But I feel so sorry for them. They got to be on their feet 8 hours a day.
Don't tell me.
Trying to think of different ways to stand, different things to think about, that kind of thing. I think they should be allowed to wear iPods, to listen to music while they do what they do.
See, you're a modern day George Costanza. This is a Seinfeld episode. Remember when he felt so bad about the security guard that he said offered him a stool?
Oh, that's right.
And then he sat down on the stool, and then the place was robbed because he fell asleep. So as soon as a guy would have iPods, that's when he doesn't hear the burglar come in, and
it all comes back
to Seinfeld.
Episodes. So the painting is going to remain on view while conservationists determine the solvent to be used to remove chemical residue about the size of a quarter. It doesn't say what brand of gum, what kind of gum are...
Hubba Bubba?
Well, well, one thing is for sure, it's not Nicorette.
No,
he's 12 years old.
Right.
By the way, they're making a mint-flavored Nicorette. I wonder if I should try it, just for the hell of it. Just for the hell of it, because I like chewing gum.
You do like.
I've
never seen you chew gum.
I don't understand how what could ooze from a gum in your mouth would cause you not to want a cigarette, but I think it's worth a try. And now that they have a mint one, why not? Now,
have you ever tried
the
patch before?
Jalapeno Nicorette that maybe you could place under your tongue and carry a Mexican food taste with you all day long. That'd be cool too.
Did you ever have tried the patch before in your life?
I did try. I owned a patch. I don't know whether I ever tried it.
6 of them over your mouth?
I think what kept me from using the patch was that I was told that to have the patch on, to smoke while wearing the patch would cause a heart attack.
Well, and you wanted to try wearing it down by your waistband. I don't know why you wanted to do that.
Actually, I also wanted to draw on it to make it a tattoo patch. Because I don't have a tattoo. The tattoos were becoming popular. I'm thinking, why not a tattoo patch? Also, I think that patches should be, that any kind of patch, contraceptive patch or anti-tobacco patch, that one should be able to purchase them in their own skin tones.
Right. Now, I saw a couple
Asians, Native Americans, African Americans, that there should be a variety of colors.
The New Amazing Race, another show that I enjoyed watching. Mm-hmm. One of the couples had little patches behind their ears. I'm guessing those are air sickness patches.
Patches behind their ears?
Yeah.
Really?
I think they have those now for people when they take a lot of plane rides.
That also could be covering up the X etched in their neck, which means they're from outer space.
Where did that come from?
Invaders from Mars. Did you ever see Invaders from Mars?
With Jack Nicholson?
No, see the original. It was made in the 50s, and then little Hunter Carson, Kit Carson's kid, was in the remake. I think Shawnee Smith may have been in the remake as well. Invaders from Mars. Right. The people from outer space had little X's etched in the back of their neck. That's how you knew you were dealing with an alien. I'm thinking that maybe this patch you're talking about on the neck might have covered that up. That people in the Amazing Race were extraterrestrials.
It's a southern dentist and his wife, so maybe.
Oh, that's probably not. The boy has been suspended from school and his parents have taken disciplinary action. What kind of disciplinary action do you take against your child when he has placed a piece of chewing gum, let's say Hubba Bubba,
Bubble
Helen
gum, it doesn't matter.
Frankenthaler $1.5 million painting at the Detroit Institute of Arts? Do you ground him? Do you take away his BlackBerry?
You respect this art.
What do you say, okay, no more dating the much older science teacher? How do you discipline a child? This is, there should have been some sort of preventive. There should have been some discipline in the home before this. I think that maybe the child's out of control.
Send him to prison. That'll teach him.
Some sort of detention, that's exactly right.
How about do like they would in Singapore and cane him?
Whatever happened to that guy?
I know.
What the hell was his name? Michael something? And then worse than the caning was, he came back to America and got a job at Mall of America.
Really?
And it was, unfortunately, a sit-down job. He eschewed the chair for several weeks after the caning. Where did that happen? Thailand or something like that?
Singapore.
Was it Singapore?
Yeah.
Okay. Is Singapore in Thailand?
I think Ang Lee has family there. Ang Lee.
Caning. And I think that's the last caning I've heard from.
We haven't heard one say that. It worked, didn't it?
Well, I think, no, what has happened is that they aren't announcing. They aren't making a big announcement. Caning today, 1 o'clock in Town Square.
They got a bad
They
rap
took
for
the
it.
caning indoors, away from prying eyes.
All those parents who don't like to discipline their children had like a sit-in or something.
What's wrong with you? I can't say. Can't say. Got in trouble at school. That's all you need to know.
Wasn't he? He was
But
breaking
you're jumping around. You won't sit down. It's just nothing to be concerned about. Everything be okay.
Come on. Now, wasn't he like ripping out?
Had to write on chalkboard 100 times. Will not deface a painting.
Is it time for Rocco Ristines?
No, it's not.
Okay. Wasn't he like going around trying to steal from parking meters or something like that? Wasn't that his
He was
crime?
keying automobiles.
Oh, that's
he was
what it
key
was.
scratching automobiles.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does the punishment fit the crime? A maiming? I mean, I guess you maimed my car. I see to you caned.
Maybe.
Well, I don't know. One maiming deserves another. I don't know. You know any numbers from Maine? Now, what I'm about to show Kel Gradke is a picture I came across. Other crime news. Our emphasis today, sports and crime. and as crime bleeds over into sports, the Barry Bonds deal. I'm about to show Kel Gradke a picture that caused me to fall off a couch yesterday.
At Caribou?
No, at my own home, thank goodness. Thank goodness I didn't see this in public and fall off a couch. That would have been very embarrassing. Although I suppose I could have wound up suing, making a lot of money.
Instead,
but
you just can sue yourself.
I don't know whether this has ever happened to you, whether you've ever seen a closed-circuit bank video picture of your own self robbing a bank. There I am, robbing a bank. I looked at that and I went, oh, my God, that's me, except the ball cap says Minnesota Gophers.
This is a kid in his early 20s.
But don't you think there's a resemblance?
Are you nuts? In your own head?
Except the ball cap says Minnesota Gophers and not the New York Times.
And there's no
You
gray
don't
hair.
think-
There's
you don't
no
think
gray
that
hair jutting from the hair either. He looks like a 20-year.
There's just some
It's a hood.
silver temples there.
No, that looks like a 20-year-old college student. You are older than that.
It doesn't say anything about
Delusions
age
of
here or
grandeur.
hair color. This has been turned over to the FBI now, so I suppose I should expect a knock on my door today from
Are you nuts?
some black jackbooted thug. By that I mean the boots would be black. The FBI said the man was wearing a white Minnesota Gophers baseball cap, a black Carhartt style jacket, blue jeans, and white tennis shoes.
There's
I do
nothing
have,
about that guy has
I
anything
have-
to do with you.
I have jeans. I have tennis shoes. I do not have a Carhartt style jacket, so I think I'm.
You don't have the
free.
gopher hat. If it was a New York Times black baseball cap, I would say yes. That
Look at
might
this.
be you.
An Asian male in his early 20s.
Asian.
But still,
There's
this look,
nothing. What is your problem?
In the mindset I was dealing with yesterday, this looked like me and caused me great alarm.
Was this after
and I'm
one
sad
of
that
those-
Kel doesn't share in this.
Was this one after those
And
bad
it says
Hollywood
he's,
calls?
He's also 5'7" tall, and of course I'm 6'7". So this, obviously I'm home free, but still, I looked at this
What
and I
is
thought,
your-
oh my God, this is me. Yeah, but you seem
Nothing.
you seem to
Nothing.
think that one of the children of Jerome Bettis looks like me.
Yes,
so I think you and I have severe differences as to
if
what
we
people
put that
look like.
picture next to
you
that
think
picture.
Heidi Fleiss is attractive, okay? And you're not attracted to Catherine Zeta-Jones, so I think your credibility is ruined.
Just pointed out all my warts and foibles.
Farts and foibles. The thief approached the bank teller with a threatening note, but didn't display a weapon. And by the way, wasn't using a cell phone. That's discredit. He was last seen on foot in the grocery store parking lot. So it looks like the guy just walked in, robbed the bank in a Cub food store. He loves his Cub in Blaine, and walks out and he gets away. How does he get away?
If that was you, I mean, maybe it's a mask or something, and it could be.
Run away.
Thank you,
With
Slade.
apologies to Del Shannon. It's police blotter time and what little time we have available.
Watch.
Well, I need to know how much time because
you just ask me usually. 5 minutes.
Oh, well, where the hell is it? Oh, here we go. Disorderly conduct. Coon Rapids, February the 22nd. The manager of a Burger King reported that 6 teenage boys bought 6 Western bacon cheeseburgers and pulled their vehicle into the parking lot.
Okay.
A couple of minutes later, they returned, said the burgers had been stolen from their truck, and demanded new ones.
That's not a bad idea.
Actually, there was a Jack in the Box in Texas when I was in high school. A kid I was with legitimately found a rubber band in his burger. And so he went up to the window and said, "Look at this." And I remember his words to this day. He said, "There's a band in the burger, baby." He was one of my more cocky compadres.
One of the more
and
intelligent
they gave
ones.
him a new rubber bandless burger. But these guys, obviously, this was a Western bacon cheeseburger scam of some sort. When the manager refused to give them the new burgers,
isn't the customer always right?
The driver told him that he'd be back at closing time to. I thought I could. This is not a punchline of my own design. Okay, this is.
From a police blotter.
I'm just trying to read from a police blotter. Let me try this again. Who would be calling at 8:16 in the morning? When the manager refused, the driver told him that he'd be back at closing time to rough him up.
Ruffian. He's a ruffian.
Do you think they cleaned this up? I'll bet the verb wasn't rough him up. I'll be back to rough you up. Oh, yeah, thank you. Mr. I mean, that sounds like something that I don't know.
Ring Lardner?
An annoyed Jehovah's Witness might say, or something, or a pilgrim of some sort. I will be back at closing time to rough you up. No, obviously, somebody dropped an F-bomb. Maybe they cleaned this up.
They cleaned it up for.
Now, did that make you hungry? The mention of Western bacon cheeseburgers.
I'm not a big bacon guy in burgers.
Not in burgers.
Not in burgers.
Okay.
Like my bacon in the morning with my eggs, but not on my burgers. Very different.
Have you ever had an impure thought about Kevin Burger? Because I've had some recently, but they're basically platonic. What about when I mentioned at the outset of the podcast jalapeno bratwurst? Did that
it does. That sounds
set
good.
off a Pavlovian response?
Yeah, it does sound pretty good if cheese is involved.
I can't look at a dog these days without thinking of Pavlov and wondering what I would have to wave in front of this dog's snout or look at it in a certain way that would cause it to begin to drool. It has to be an amazing talent.
Is this show almost over?
Except
it's going
there
so
are
well.
Pavlovian responses in human beings. When the science teacher walked into the courtroom on the court channel yesterday, I began to have a Pavlovian response.
What was that?
That was a sniff. February 27th. Theft, also in Coon Rapids. Apparently the city has not been renamed yet because they're still calling it Coon Rapids the police blotter. A man said he was drinking at a bar with 2 men he had met.
Sounds like
I don't know whether that means he met them for the first time, was introduced to them, or introduced himself.
Because we've all met somebody in the
whether
past.
they arranged to encounter each other there and drink as a group.
As we're doing tonight, right?
That's correct. Kel Gradke, non-commercial appearance. Maplewood BW3 tonight at 7:30.
I got the okay from the wife.
He's gotten the okay from El Exigente. So what I'm about to read could happen tonight at Maplewood BW3. What's Wisson? Theft. A man said he was drinking at a bar with two men he had met, and in my case, let's say it would be Kel, yours truly, an offshore account guy tonight at Maplewood BW3. And that when they left, one of his new acquaintances offered to be a designated driver. While driving him home in his car, and incidentally, I'll need one tonight because I can't drive at night. And it's not.
And you'll be drunk as a skunk.
I wish it were because of middle age and failing eyes. And it's a legal thing. It's just some fine print.
Yeah.
While driving him home in his car, the man pulled over in the 2700 block of Northwest Northdale Boulevard, forced the owner out of the car, and drove away.
I
can see you doing that to me, actually.
I would love to do that to you.
You ready to end it? Because it's 8:20. I mean, didn't we start at 7:20?
Yeah.
We've been doing this for an hour, am I right?
Well, the music started, and we let it run
I
for a while.
like leaving little dangling participles or whatever they're called. Maybe this is called an arc in Hollywood or something. It's something that joins one morning's podcast to the next. You'll want to stay tuned. You'll want to check us out on Friday, very special TGIFF edition of this webcast, Bobcast, to find out how Police Blotter ends. On a happy note or a sad one.
You should be one of those announcer guys.
Because there are several other items. One of which, here is a great ordering of priorities by some new mom out there. Theft, St. Anthony, February 20th. Someone stole 4 packages of diapers and a bottle of pop from a Cub Foods.
It could be me.
$71.
The guy looks like me. Oh, no, he's a 20-year-old agent. God.
That's when you know I think it's all about me.
That's when the show took a strange turn.
It was a vague... Yes, there was a note of dissent.
I fell off my chair.
A note of dissent. Ending on a discordant note. Note of disagreement. Go figure. Weblake Software. Web with two B's, yes. WEBBLAKE.net. That's when you know you've been talking nonstop for an hour when you can't even spell.
Band in the burger, baby.
Weblake.net on the web, 762-3700-651 call to thank them for spearheading this podcast effort, and throw your software and internet business their way, won't you? Thanks for subscribing and renewing at BobYatesShow.com with 2 consecutive S's. Back again tomorrow. Enjoy this suddenly sunny Thursday here in early March, if in fact that's when you're listening to this, and so long for now.